Annually, we have had a college essay contest. It was an idea generated by a graduate who wanted to honor his former English teacher, who happens to be my predecessor, Dr. Douglas Paschall. And he felt that he learned how to write, the student, at MBA, and it helped him tremendously in his career. And he wanted to honor Dr. Paschall and thought that this would be a fun way to create some good for the entire school, because writing these essays is not easy. It's hard to sort of express yourself personally, but this is a terrific opportunity for all of you to think about what a good essay, a college essay, is about, and to appreciate the effort and achievement that these three guys have gone through in writing their essays. Our college counseling office asked the seniors to submit their essays. They then select 3 students, and then we have a panel. And so we're glad that Dr. Kinch, Dr. Rader, Ms. Raines, and Dr. Boyd, and we're particularly grateful to have Doug Christiansen, who's in charge of admissions at Vanderbilt and has been a great friend of the school and has done a terrific job, not just locally and at Vanderbilt, but nationally in terms of his role as chair of the College Board. Please join me in welcoming and thanking Mr. Christiansen. Okay, the way we'll do this is that each one of them will deliver their essay, and then we'll let the panel determine the winning essay, and we'll announce that at the end of assembly. They elected to go in the order that you see them from my right, so we're going to start with Nikhil. Please welcome Nikhil to the podium.
As my 16th birthday approached, I eagerly awaited the day I would be able to drive away and go wherever I liked. With a small blue rectangular driver's license and a car, the whole world seemed within reach. For months, I had visions of speeding down the highway and blasting music in a Ford Mustang or Chevy Camaro. When my parents announced that I would instead be inheriting my mom's decade-old Honda Odyssey, I was dismayed. The dented, murky green minivan was the complete antithesis of my dream car. I was sure I would be the only one at my school driving a minivan, and I was right. There was not another minivan in the entirety of the student section of the school parking lot. Little did I know that the minivan would become the perfect vehicle for me. In many ways, my minivan is the embodiment of my values and aspirations. Over the short time I've had it, my minivan has carried friends, close family, and even relatives who have traveled all the way from India. An assortment of people has come together under its roof. Almost everyone important to me has at some point taken a trip with me in my minivan. With its incredible capacity, I could carry my friends wherever they needed to go. Any occasion that called for 8 boys piling into its back seats, numerous school tennis tournaments, concerts, and sporting events like a Titans football game, my minivan has been there to hold us. Surprisingly, it has become a preferred method of transportation. Along the way, I also became someone who my friends relied on, not only for driving them from place to place, but as someone to come to for advice or guidance. Similarly, in my life, like in my car, I have strived to be a safe, reliable place for my friends and family to come to, no matter the issue. Beyond its practical utility, my minivan has facilitated my desire to explore various interests. Now, driving myself from school to tennis clinic to ESL tutoring within a few hours is possible. Whether on new ventures or customary activities, my minivan accompanies me, and I've never had to worry about it breaking down. In fact, my minivan has been depicted as the workhorse of vehicles, and I resonate with that description in my own life. I strive to be like my minivan in my commitments, trustworthy, reliable, and dependable. My minivan is also the least ostentatious among all of the trucks and SUVs that belong to my friends. Similarly, I strive in all aspects, but with a modest countenance. On the tennis team, I've progressed from the last player on the team to a competitor on one of the best teams in the state. When I drive to tennis tournaments, my car never announces my arrival. Just as my minivan surprised me My quiet work ethic on court often shocks my unsuspecting opponents. Although I still get more compliments on my minivan from my friends' moms than my own friends, I would not trade my minivan for any other car. After I grew accustomed to the curiously rapid acceleration and substandard brakes, my minivan surprised me in many ways once I looked past its less than impressive exterior. I understand now why the Honda Odyssey is a bestseller and customers often return to buy another. Once you understand the minivan's qualities, no other vehicle lives up to the same standards. Similarly, once you get to know me past the service, my character is unearthed and one can see my unique value as a leader and individual. I hope to, like my minivan's capacity, be open to a diverse set of experiences in college. So if you're free, I invite you to come along for a ride. Thank you.
Wait a second. Don't get this suit. Okay, let's give Julian a round of applause.
Nobody understood me as a kid, literally. No one had read my favorite book, The Hat in the Hat, had been to get a haircut, or I met my brother, Tris. Growing up with a speech impediment was like moving your mouth with no one listening. Everyone seemed to focus on the movements of my mouth without actually understanding the words I was trying to say. Rather than engaging my young, curious self, the first questions everyone asked were, "Huh? Can you repeat that? And slow down, please." To make matters worse, I talked twice as fast as my peers. I was like an auctioneer, but even harder to understand. My speech, a clumsy, mad blitz. I never understood why people refused to understand me, or at least that's how I saw it. I couldn't even grasp the ideas of others not comprehending what I was trying to say. Everything made sense in my insulated bubble. How couldn't my hand of soup having too many carrots or being too hold not be crystal clear? Eventually, my parents sent me to a speech therapist. Words became exercises rather than ideas. I was taught that my inability to make the "k" sound was due to a lack of skill that everyone else had naturally, but I had to work for. First, I would put the tongue to the top of my mouth. Then, I would try to hold the air behind it. Finally, I would release the air in a sudden, quick movement to create that sharp, exhaling noise. She might as well have told me that I don't wiggle my ears enough when I talk. Every time I try to mimic my therapist's actions, I look like a baby lion, attempting to roar with but a tiny yelp coming from my mouth. This mechanistic routine became my solemn duty for the months in that dreadful office. Then, suddenly one day, I could just make the sound. It appeared to me out of thin air with no grand buildup nor the satisfaction of work. My hats were replaced with cats, my huts with cuts, but everything still felt the same. I didn't know what changed. I certainly hadn't. I still babbled in my insulated bubble, but now with the proper technique. And I continued with my difficult to understand, mad blitzes, all the way until my first debate tournament. Clear. I paused, startled out of speaking, and tentatively turned to my judge, only to be met with a flurry of revolving hands. I cautiously continued reading my evidence, trying to understand what this outburst and hand signs meant in the back of my head. I was confused. The judge, that passive though omnipotent observer, had interrupted me. It was only my first debate tournament, but like most debaters, I already had a lot of strong opinions, especially about the activity. Debate was supposed to be a technical scorecard, with checkboxes for each rhetorical victory. I felt crushed with my steadfast tempo halted. Piecing together the clues she left, I had to assume that clear meant that I failed to enunciate, and the hand sign signaled to slow down. My judge reminded me of everyone who refused to understand me, but now I had no choice but quickly to adapt if I wanted to win. I had a sudden realization. In order to be heard, I also had to be an empathetic listener. I thought I was being clear, but I realized I was being crystal clear. I couldn't just think about what I was saying. I had to think about how others would hear it. Debate was only about persuasion, and persuasion starts with listening, not talking. With that in mind, I put down my notes and looked straight in the eyes of my judges, and for the first time in my life, really started talking.
Still between cups. I was going to just tell everybody where they're going out. Welcome, John Curry.
I have no identity. I live in a world where group determines identity, and I have no group. My proclivity for writing restaurant reviews and political pieces while teaching myself how to play piano is not something I can discuss with my 4x4 teammates. My artistic friends do not embrace my lifelong dedication to track. My use of correct grammar and private school education prohibit my full acceptance as truly black in my own North Nashville neighborhood. My college plans separate me from other boys in my zip code, which has the highest incarceration rate in this nation, according to a 2018 study. My color and culture limit my full immersion in my predominantly white upper-class school. My own moral compass has forced me to choose a middle ground because I lean too right for Democrats and too left for Republicans. I have no identity, and I like it. Marginalization forces me to accept my differences and thrive. Code switching on a daily basis gives me the ability to see what divides us as a society and allows me to mediate accordingly. I synthesize solutions and compromises that appease many while speaking to multiple perspectives. The drive needed to attain my current rank as the best hurdler in Middle Tennessee is the same one used to achieve HSK, the International Chinese Proficiency Test, Level 3. My school's resources enabled me to experience homestays in the Middle Kingdom and Hobart, Tasmania, forcing me into new atmospheres, giving me an unparalleled education in international culture. Attending a school outside my community granted me access to study Chinese and German, languages that I enjoy but are unavailable in my neighborhood public school. Having no identity provides me the ability to find the middle ground and bond people together. I believe that we use identity to divide ourselves as a nation. With division comes ignorance. With ignorance, condemnation. Refusing the notion of identity, I force myself to love and unify. I disagree with Seneca's belief that a friend to everyone is a friend to no one. I can befriend all and create cohesion. I identify a discrepancy and bridge the gap. However, bridging the gap only occurs because I live within the margins. I may be a walking contradiction, but my lack of a social home presents me with one everywhere.
Thanks to all three of you. Just because I thought you'd be interested in this information, Nikhil is going to attend Duke University, where he applied early. Julian is going to attend Harvard, where he also applied early. And John is still debating. The current debate is between Tufts and Morehouse. He'll make that decision later this month.
All right. Well, I think you all heard three amazing examples of college essays this morning. So let's give these guys a round of applause before I make the announcement. In the history of the competition, this was the closest finish. But in the end, Nikhil, you are the winner of this year's contest.